Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
My name is Robert Furlong. That's F-U-R-L-O-N-G. When the war started in December of '41, I had always been interested in aviation and airplanes, and I decided then, if I possibly could, to get into a flying position. And I joined the aviation cadets in May of 1942, and I had to wait until November of '42 when I got called up to start in my flying program. And the first place I was assigned to was Atlantic City. After a while, I was sent to Norwich University in Northfield, Vermont, and again, it was a series of ground training. And then we went from Northfield, Vermont to Nashville, Tennessee, where they tried to figure out whether you were going to be a pilot, bombardier, or navigator. And at that point, after about 2 months, I was assigned to flying training as a pilot. And the first place I was sent to was Avon Park, Florida, and we were flying Stearman PT-17s, primary trainers, and we tried to get 70 hours. You had 3 schools. You started in primary, the second school was basic, the third school was advanced. In each school you were supposed to get 70 hours of training, but of course it was off by maybe 4 or 5, usually on the heavy side because of bad weather. And in primary, we learned to, well, number one, we soloed so that we actually, and we did the beginning of aerobatics. We did spins and stalls and that sort of stuff. We didn't do any cross-country at that point. The second school we went to that I was assigned to was Cochran Field in Macon, Georgia. And there we flew BT-13s. That means basic trainer 13. And there we did more advanced aerobatics. We started cross-country. We did a little night flying. And the third school we started at was advanced single-engine in AT-6s. And again, another 70-hour regimen. And we did a lot of night flying, a lot of starting. We started a little gunnery, but very little, down at Eglin Field, Florida. And at that point, we were assigned to fly P-40s. We did 10 hours in P-40s. And I happened to shoot a big gunnery score. And so I was made a gunnery instructor down at Eglin Field. And then I was sent back to the advanced school that I was at Dothan, Alabama. It's called Napier Field. And there we flew AT-6s, and I was an instructor. One day they had a notice on the board that anybody wanted to volunteer. We have some openings for particularly hazardous duty in a cold, wet, and windy climate. I didn't know what it was, but I signed it. Suddenly I was on a ship and going over to Scotland. I wound up in a P-47 Thunderbolt Squadron. I wound up in the 53rd Fighter Squadron of the 36th Fighter Group of the 9th Air Force. We had some harrowing times, of course. We mostly did ground support. We mostly did low-level attacks on tanks and trucks, locomotives, troops, airfields. We shot out all the time. One thing we were escort pilots, where we would fly for 5 or 6 hours, and other than heavy flak, which we could get away from as fighter pilots and the poor bombers had to drive through, we were always getting shot at. And of course we were I started flying originally out of, a little bit out of Epernay in France, and then we went to Louvain, Belgium. That's where our field was, which was a former Luftwaffe fighter field. And that was just before the Bulge, or the battle at the Ardennes. And we got into that, and we lost a lot of guys. We started the beginning of that particular battle, which started on the 16th of December in 1944, and we had 33, I'm not sure whether he had 33 or 35 pilots in the squadron at the time. And between the 16th of December and the 1st of January, we had 19 pilots left. So we had fairly heavy losses in the Ardennes campaign. And then towards the end of the war, as the Germans were getting pushed back by the Russians and the Americans were coming in, the Luftwaffe still had plenty of airplanes. They were short on fuel, but they were getting pushed back to fields that they could defend better than the fields they were on out in the hinterlands. One of the most successful missions we ever had was on the 17th of April in 1945. In that particular mission, we had 3 flights, and we originally were attacking some locomotives or trains, and the Luftwaffe, some guys, we got bounced by some FW-190s, and we started a little battle with them, and then we actually turned east to get away from them because they were above us, and we ran across a German airfield, which was packed with German airplanes. So we had a big scramble with them, big fight. We shot down, I think, 10 of them confirmed, and I think there was 9 others that were severely crippled. We lost 2 airplanes and no pilots. One of the airplanes that was shot down was mine. I got badly hit by ground fire, and it was oil all over the canopy, very difficult to see out of the airplane. And I turned west away from the field and kept flying west, and I was looking for a place to get the thing down. I wasn't sure where the line was. I wasn't sure where the American line was. So I kept flying, and finally I saw a little field, an evacuation field, a field like a MASH hospital. In other words, a forward advanced hospital. And there were little planes taking off, and I could see that they had American stars on the wings. So I took the airplane and tried to get it down on their short little runway. The P-47 lands at about 135 miles an hour, and they landed about 40 miles an hour, and they just practically made the end of their runway. So I stuck the thing down as early on the runway as I could, just come in over some little low bushes, banged it on the runway, and I kept rolling and rolling and went into a woods beyond the end of the field. And the trees were going tick, 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 and they were pretty big trees. And it knocked the hell out of the airplane. So anyway, that was the end of that mission. And it was right toward the end of the war. It was the last big fight we had. But it got us, our particular group, that got us our second, what do they call it, group citation, which was very, very good. They had gotten one before when they were up around Carentan. So the war ended as far as I was concerned, and I was home in late December 1945. And I went ahead and did 73 missions, and I was lucky. I could walk out of airplanes at the end of the war, and I was still alive.
My name is Paul Colangelo. I was born in Pagentro, Italy. It's a small town near Rome, a couple hours away from Rome. I came to this country when I was 14 to join my father. My father was here all by himself, and I came to this country to join my father. My father thought I was big enough to put me to work. Instead, he sent me to school. I was drafted in November 1942. After draft, they sent me to Camp Upton, Long Island, and from there I was sent to Camp Hood, Texas. Then we were sent to the Desert Maneuvers, where we joined the 4th Armored Division, the Desert Maneuvers. And we spent about 5 to 6 months in the Desert Maneuvers because they think that probably we had to go to Africa to fight in Africa. And from there, we went to Boston Harbor. And this, in February, I believe it was February 28th, we boarded this British ship, the Britannic, and we landed in Liverpool, England. In fact, there's a big convoy going across at the time, with about 2,000 to 3,000 ships convoying, including battleship, aircraft carrier, destroyers. And when we got to Liverpool, then we rode all night long to where we were in England, the Trowbridge, England. This was 1944. In July, after the D-Day, the invasion of Normandy, we boarded in the Southampton, England, we boarded an LSTs, what they call LSTs. We carried all the guns and the tanks and everything. And we landed in Utah Beach, Normandy, at night. And then we said the beachhead, over the beachhead. In fact, they were only about 3-4 miles inland when we landed in Normandy. And in fact, we were there at night. In the morning at daybreak, and you could smell the human flesh, the animals at the time, because all the killing of all the dead bodies over there. And I would see a lot of dead bodies, so even part of the humans being legs up in the trees and all that. It's an horrible, horrible sight, a horrible smell at the time over there. In Normandy, of course, I was assistant driver of the tank, assistant driver. But at Normandy, then what we did, we used our tanks, our guns, it was like artillery piece, you know, shooting, because we were getting a lot of German artillery shells coming towards us. So we, then after a couple of weeks, and they told us to pull back. Pull back, pull back. And I said, what are you going to do? Back in the water again? So we pulled back. Then the planes, about 3,000 planes came and kept the bombing in the front of us, the front line. And we took almost all day bombing. Then after that, after the bombing, then we took off to the advance. And we start to move. In fact, we got to this town, the Avranches, the name of the town in Normandy. We captured 200 German prisoners ourselves. My company, my battalion, we captured 200 prisoners. And then we spent almost the whole fall over there in this particular Metz, Nancy, that's the name of the town that we were down. And then during that time, the Germans were trying to make a big counterattack towards us. I remember early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, we were awakened. And they said, mount up, let's mount up, let's mount up. So we mount up in the tanks. We start to move up the tank, 4 of us tank, the 3rd Battalion of the C Company of 704. I was in the 3rd Battalion. And we started to go up this hill. In fact, my tank was the 4th one. All of a sudden, up in the front, it was very foggy. You could even see a hand of us in the front of us at the time. And we heard gunshot, boom, boom, boom. And one of our tank coming back was damaged. In fact, he had 2 men killed and 1 wounded in that tank. And when we kept on going up, and we found 2 German tanks burning. And the second, then there was a second tank. Again, we heard the shots, boom, boom, boom. Second tank came back. He was damaged. And again, as we kept coming, like I said, very foggy, couldn't see nothing. All we could see the smoke and the fire. With 2 more German tanks were hit. So then we kept on going up. Then we got 2 tanks left. We kept on going up this hill and go up to the top of that hill. Then the fog started to clear. Then from the distance, we saw a big line of German tanks, big line of tanks. And we didn't even know if they were ours or they were German. But at the time, our guns, we didn't, what they call the muzzle blast in the front of the tank. The Germans started with this muzzle blast. We didn't have it. My tank, we didn't have the muzzle blast at the time in the front. So looking through the binoculars, we saw this muzzle blaster in the tank, in the front of the gun. Then we realized that they were German. Then we started to open the fire, and you were having a real field day. We knocked them out. We move, we fire, move, and we knocked out altogether. At the end of the battle, we destroyed 18 German tanks. And we lost 3 tanks. 1 was mine. And the reason why mine was lost was because there was 1 German tank very well protected from this distance. And this platoon commander, Lieutenant Lieber, he wanted to get that tank the worst way. He wanted to get, he insisted that he should get that tank. And that I had to go to the bathroom so badly. I had to go so badly that I couldn't wait. I couldn't. So I got off the tank, to do my business there, and they went up this hill without me. As soon as they got up that hill, boom, my tank got hit. And where did it get hit? Right where I was sitting, in the driver's side, the assistant driver's seat. That's where the tank got hit. And thank God I wasn't in there. So God was with me that day, thank God. I got a 3-day pass to go to Paris. And when I came back from the pass, I couldn't find my outfit. After I found my outfit, they were getting ready to go to the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium. So we mount up, we rode all night long through Luxembourg and Belgium to Bastogne, where the 101st Airborne Division was trapped. So the 4th Armored Division, General Patton's, of course, General Patton's Army, we moved up to Bastogne and in order to save this 101st Airborne Division. So then we had big battles over there. In fact, before we got there, I believe it was 106th Infantry Division was almost 90% destroyed by the Germans, but the big counterattack they made. And during, in fact, it was a Christmas Day, 1945, Christmas Day. The airplanes, the gliders, throwing supplies to the 101st Airborne Division that was trapped there, throwing the supplies. Until we broke out the ring, and then we got the Germans on the run. From then on, we got the Germans on the run. And then we just kept on moving. Like I said, destroying everything was gone. Then the Germans were surrendering by the thousands. They were surrendering to us. So we kept on moving. In fact, we were about 60, 70 miles away from Berlin. And General Patton wanted to go to Berlin. But they insisted they let the Russians go to Berlin instead of the General Patton, General Patton. So then from there on, we wound up in Czechoslovakia. While we were going to Czechoslovakia, we heard over the radio that the Germans had surrendered. On the way, there was this town, Erfurt. Remember Erfurt, Germany? And it was a concentration camp. Gotha, the name of the town, Gotha and Erfurt. We liberated this concentration camp in Gotha. Then there was this in this town, Erfurt. We saw bodies, hundreds of bodies into this ravine, lined ravine, skin and bones. Always. In fact, we went around the city there. We got the civilians, put them on the trucks, and to show them what Hitler was doing there. And in fact, even the civilians themselves, the German civilians, were really surprised to see that kind of a sight. You know? After the war, they put us in German barracks. Landshut was the name of the town, Landshut. There, I could have gotten a week pass to go to Italy. But then there was a time that my outfit was coming home. In fact, I even wrote to my sister. I had a sister there in Italy. I wrote to my sister that I was going to go and visit her from Germany. But the time came, all my outfits were coming over. So then I decided, I went to my company